Hello everyone. This is the final video in our bike path series, and in today's video, just gonna go over the frequently asked questions to help you kind of ride around Korea. So there's gonna be a lot of information in this video, so I recommend maybe grabbing a piece of paper and a pencil, and let's get straight to it with probably the most entertaining question, and that's how to find a stealth camping spot in Korea. So let's go.
First of all, there are paid campsites all around Korea, but they're incredibly expensive, and even more than motels or hotels in a lot of cases, which kind of defeats the purpose of camping in my opinion. But it's possible to camp for free in certain places, especially on Jeju and the East Coast bike path, which we talk about in parts 2 and 3 of the series. For the paths inland away from the beaches, you'll have to do a lot of stealth camping if you want to camp for free, which I'm not sure about the legality to be honest, as it's a very gray area. So if you don't like being adventurous like this, just book a place to stay for some peace of mind. If you want to go for it and stealth camp, then here's what we did.
When I'm looking for a spot to camp, I open Naver Maps. I just kind of go along the bike trail and look for, this is a bathroom here. You probably can't see it. So I just open Street View and look at the bathroom. That's might be okay.
Once you've found a public bathroom in a decent area, scout the area to see if there are any spots a bit out of the way so you aren't disturbing anyone.
Totally fine for camping for sure. It's all dependent on the bathrooms. Okay, so that's not ideal right there. Say no to that. But there is another bathroom over here, maybe. Looks like there's a bathroom on the second floor.
Once you've found a bathroom, scout the area for a place that's a little bit out of the way and preferably hidden. And make sure there are no signs that say no camping.
So this spot is gonna work, I'm pretty sure. I still wanna be quiet just because I don't wanna pack everything up and go. I just washed off my face and my head and all that kind of stuff, so it feels amazing. Also in the morning, I need to go to the bathroom most days, so I need a bathroom because in Korea, you can't just like go to the bathroom outside. Usually what I like to do is kind of find a place that's tucked away in a little corner. So if you see here, this is kind of like a soccer field, and this was a stadium, I'm pretty sure, or like where they put the seats, but it's just a big empty space right now. And these are the kind of places that are perfect. I'm not always this lucky, but I'll take it today for sure.
Also, these pagodas that you can find everywhere are usually okay as long as there aren't signs telling you not to do so. And sometimes you'll just get lucky and cycle past a spot where others are camping for free too. If you find one like this, it's a jackpot, and you won't find another one for quite some time most likely, so it's worth it to cut the ride short if you have to. Once you've found a stealth camping spot, it's best to set up your tent when it's nighttime, and pack it up early the next morning, and be smart, quiet, and clean. If people tell you to leave, respect what they've said, say sorry, and get out of there. You could ask them if they know any other places nearby too. And that's that. We've camped in public parks in the middle of cities, including on top of a stage where we woke up next to a bunch of ajumas dancing the next day. We've camped next to tennis courts, right beside the stamp booths, and even on the stands at a soccer field in the countryside, which had a practice the next morning. A lot of people passing by were curious, but once they saw our bikes and how quiet and respectful we were, they almost always greeted us with a smile, with the exception of one time where a group of people were drinking at a park right outside our tent and left garbage everywhere, which we got accused of the next morning. And then another time when we accidentally camped overnight in a place you're not allowed to do. But overall, Korea is an amazing place to stealth camp at, and if you just be respectful, you'll have a good time in my opinion.
All right, and the next question is also a very frequently asked question, and that's how to get to Seoul from Incheon Airport with your bike.
This is by far the most commonly asked question, and we covered this in the last video too, so skip it if you've already seen it. Before you take your bike out of the bike box or bike bag you have, there are a few things to consider. First of all, If you just want to make it easy and take a taxi, you can take a venti taxi, which is basically a big van, and you could definitely fit one bike in a box or bag inside the van, and possibly two depending on the size. And it's about 40,000 won to the entrance of the cross-country bike path at Ara West Silok. Or if you want to go to Seoul first, it should cost about 80,000 won, but this will get more expensive at nighttime. Just follow the signs to the taxis outside, and don't talk to the drivers that'll hassle you at international arrivals, and make sure the taxi driver uses the meter. You can also take the airport railroad line, which is linked to the Seoul subway for a lot cheaper. But these are some very important things to know. If you have a fold-up bike, you're allowed to ride the airport railroad any day, as long as you fold up your bike when getting on the train. If you have a regular bike that doesn't fold, you can leave it in the box or bike bag and also ride the airport railroad at any time. But this will be a huge hassle in my opinion. If you want to assemble your bike at the airport, you can only ride the airport railroad with an assembled bike on weekends or holidays. And you have to reserve the time slot on this website, which we linked in the description, which is only available on the Korean version. So use Google Chrome to translate the page into your language, and sign up with a Google or Facebook account to reserve a time. Once you are logged in, click Reservation Request on the bottom right, and then on the next page, it bugs out when selecting your date in English. So make sure to select it on the original Korean version first, and then translate the page to English and finish filling in the form. I know this is a hassle, and if you can't figure this step out, you could probably ask the people working at the airport railroad to get on without reserving, and they should help you. But this isn't a guarantee. And when you ride the train, make sure to ride the first or the last car. And let's go to the next question. So that is where to store your bike bag in Seoul while you're riding around the country. And what I've seen online is that a lot of people that travel here end up reserving the same hotel for their arrival and departure, and ask the hotel to hold onto their bike bag until they get back, which many have had good success with. If you don't want to go this route, there are various luggage storage options in Seoul, such as this place called Q Storage, which I haven't personally used, and take this with a grain of salt, but I found people online saying it's about 20,000 won a month for a large suitcase, which is quite a bit cheaper than storing your bag at one of the standard options, such as the T-Luggage or T-Lockers you can find all over Korea, which can cost up to 30,000 won for the day. You can ask Q Storage for a quote online through KakaoTalk in English to find exact pricing for you. Another option is just to use a bike box, recycle it when you get here, and then ask a bike shop for one when you're leaving Korea, which I'm sure they would just give to you for free. And the next question we have is how to rent a bike in Seoul. To rent a bike here, by far the most recommended place is Bike Nara, which has a new location located right by Mapo Station, in central Seoul, only a short walk from Kongdeok Station on the airport railroad line. They're a giant dealer that rents gravel bikes for 35,000 won a day, or 210,000 for a full week, and you can return your bike in Busan for 50,000 won, and add a pannier bag for 20,000 won if needed. There's also the Seoul Bike Rental store, which we personally use, located right in Itaewon. Also located in central Seoul, just a 10-minute subway ride from Seoul Station. They rent bikes out for about $27 per day. And if you want to rent long-term, you can KakaoTalk them from their website linked in the description to arrange it. On Naver Maps, it lists bike rentals for about 120,000 won from Incheon to Busan, so it looks like the cheaper option overall. And then for those of you who maybe want to do a longer trip and renting is too expensive, the next question is how to buy a bike secondhand in Seoul and sell it when you're finished your ride. You can find loads of great deals on the app 당근마켓 or Karrot Market in English, which is a local marketplace where you can check what other people are selling in your area. You might have to do a bit of translation here and there to set up a sale, but most of the younger people in Korea are very good at reading and writing in English, so you shouldn't have a problem if you let them know that you're a tourist. Alternatives would be Craigslist or Seoul's secondhand Facebook groups, which you could also do 100% in English. Alright, and now it's time to talk about the Korean bike passport. This is a passport that you can buy to collect stamps at all 13 official bike paths here, for a total of 1,800 kilometers and 85 stamps, which you can stamp at these red booths that are located every 20 to 40 kilometers or so on every bike path. You can receive stickers both in your passport and to stick on your helmet or bike for finishing individual paths. And there are 3 medals you can earn to collect as a little souvenir. The cross-country medal is earned from cycling across the country from Incheon to Busan and collecting the stamps along the way, which doesn't include the Chungju Dam and Andong Dam stamps, which are detours along the ride. The 4 Rivers medal is achieved by biking and collecting the stamps at the 4 largest rivers in Korea, the Hangang, Kumgang, Nakdonggang, and Yeongsangang. And finally, The Grand Slam medal is achieved by collecting all 85 stamps here. You can buy the bike passport at one of the certification centers that has this passport icon on the official Korean cycling website, which is linked in the description. And these are also the places where you can order the medals, including the Ata West Silok Gate, which is the start of the cross-country path from Incheon to Busan. There used to be a vending machine to buy the passport, but now you have to buy it directly from the employees there during the working hours of 9:30 a.m. to 5:30 p.m. The passport costs 4,000 won, and the map is an additional 500 won. If you don't want to buy the passport, there is also an app that you can use instead, and you can just scan the QR codes at each of the stamp booths instead of stamping. Okay, and this is a question we've got a couple times, and that's how long does it take to complete the Grand Slam? So that's collecting all the bike stamps in Korea in one continuous go. So let's talk about the Grand Slam. In each video of this series, which you can find a playlist of on our channel, we went over each individual path and showed how long it takes to complete each section. But if you want to do the entire Grand Slam in one go, you could complete it in 1 month if you're willing to cycle an average of about 100 kilometers per day, which is about 20 days of cycling, and then that saves 10 days for resting and riding buses and other transportation. For those who want to cycle at an average of 50 to 60 kilometers per day, up to 80 kilometers, it should take about a month and a half to 2 months at 36 days of cycling, and then that gives you about 10 to 20 days of rest for riding buses and other transportation. As far as order goes to complete the pass, this is the order I'd personally choose. Starting in Incheon, cycling east along the Han River and then finishing up the Bukhangang bike path, and then doing the cross-country bike path down to Busan while stopping at Chungju Dam and Andong Dam on the way. Once in Busan, either ride up the east coast or take a bus to Yeongdeok and do the east coast bike path heading north up to Gosong, and then take a bus to Seoul from there, rest up a bit, and another bus to Kaesong. Now you can cycle the Ochon and Kumgang bike paths, then take a bus from Kunsan to Gwangyang, cycle up the Seomjingang, down the Yeongsangang to Mokpo, and then take a ferry from Mokpo to Jeju to end your Grand Slam with a tropical vacation riding the Jeju Fantasy Bike Path. Okay, this next one we've answered a lot, but I figured I'd throw it in here, and it's when is the best time to ride in Korea? It'd be best to cycle between early April and mid to late June, or early September to mid-November. And if you're camping, June and September would be the most pleasant at nighttime without having to worry about the cold at all. In the winter, it'll be too cold here unless you enjoy -degree cycling. And the summer is doable if necessary, as we did the cross-country bike path our first time in 2019 during the last week in July. But it was insanely hot, and we had to pour ice over ourselves along the ride to avoid overheating. And one thing to include is in the spring, we get a lot of yellow dust and pollution here. So you can get some pretty polluted days for sure. This is a perfect example today. I think the air quality is like 150 or something on the AQI, and it's not too rare, so that's what the sky looks like right now. It's definitely not the best for cycling, that's for sure, if you want to protect your lungs. Also, the summer months get the most rain overall. And lastly, the wind in Korea typically travels southeast, but it can be very unpredictable. And since it's a peninsula, you'll encounter a decent amount of wind no matter what direction you travel in. Okay, and the next question is, what apps do you need to download before you come to Korea? And also, what app should you use for cycle navigation? First of all, Google Maps is very limited in Korea, so I'd avoid using it in most cases, except for when booking hotels, which we'll talk about more in the next section. For cycling navigation, there are 2 different apps which can both be used in English, Naver Maps and Kakao Maps. Kakao Maps is the best for navigation because it calculates the best route along the bike paths when possible, with elevation factored in, which Naver Maps doesn't seem to do as well. However, Naver Maps is the best app to find things like restaurants, convenience stores, hotels, bathrooms, and things like that. So you need to use both apps while here. It's pretty easy to use English in the tourist areas of Seoul, Busan, and Jeju, but once you get into the countryside, the app Papago would be very helpful to translate things from Korean to English or another language. And you can use the camera feature just like Google Translate to translate menus and signs. Okay, now let's talk about how to find hotels in Korea, and more than just hotels. There's also motels and tons of different types of places to stay. So let's look at them. In order to find and book hotels in Korea, the easiest way for travelers is simply just to open up Google Maps and use the hotels feature to find different places to stay. It compares the different websites very well to find good deals. And if you can't find hotels or motels in the area you're in, you can check Naver Maps instead. And unless you're living in Korea with a Korean ID and phone number, you won't be able to reserve on the Korean websites such as Yanoja or Yogiote. But if you're in the countryside, there will almost always be vacancy unless it's a holiday, or sometimes weekends might be full. It's also worth checking out Airbnb to see if you can find a place, but most of the time this is more expensive than a motel or hotel. Some other potential places to stay that can be found on Naver Maps would be a guest house where you'll be bunking up with other people or have a shared communal area, a minbak, which is like a Korean-style Airbnb, a yogwan, which is basically an inn, and will most likely be the cheapest option that's similar to a motel, but a bit more adventurous. A jjimjilbang, which is a sauna, and will be the cheapest option to stay overnight, but you'll be sleeping in a big public area with other people, and a pension, which is like a holiday home, but these will be more expensive as they're typically made for bigger groups of people. I've included all the words in the description that you can use to copy and paste into Naver Maps to find these different places. So you can try this out if you can't find anything on Google Maps first. Alright, this next question's been asked a few times, and that's, is it safe to cycle on the highways? Sometimes people ask what it's like to use the highways in Korea for cycling, which a lot of people do, and even Naver Maps lists there being a cycle path from Seoul to Sokcho consisting of mostly highways. And here's my personal opinion. Korea is a very developed country in almost every aspect, but driving is by far the least developed in my opinion. It's extremely common for people to drive while looking at their phones, to speed over 30 kilometers above the speed limit, change lanes without signaling, and tailgate each other. And personally, this makes me uncomfortable to cycle on the highways, as you have absolutely no control over what the cars are doing, and it feels like you're just waiting to be part of an accident. And we see a fender bender on almost every road trip we go on, so I wouldn't recommend cycling on the highways. However, we've done it before for small sections, and we're still alive to tell the tale. If you're going in between two places that don't have a designated cycle path, it'd be good to use Kakao Maps and plan your route in advance using the bike directions and looking at the street view to make sure you can avoid highways whenever possible. But I'd try to find roads with a designated bike path, which shows up as a pink line on Kakao Maps when you search for directions. Or if you have to share the road with the cars, then definitely try to plan your route on the smaller one-lane roads instead. There will be more hills and turns, but it's worth it in my opinion. Alright, so what about city biking? So I made an entire video of what it's like to cycle in Seoul and if Seoul is a cycle-friendly city, but to summarize, it's okay to ride in the city on the streets, but you just got to be extra careful, especially if it's kind of a road with a lot of cars and not a lot of room for them to get by you. A lot of cars will get impatient and honk at you and stuff like that. So in those scenarios, a lot of the time I just ride on the sidewalk to avoid the kind of the fights with the cars. But yeah, in general, I do ride on the streets a lot here, and it's definitely better than the highways, but I'd avoid it whenever possible. You can see here, there's a bike first road. There's the sign there too. So all these cars are supposed to yield, but sometimes you get honked at even on these lanes too. So it kind of just depends on the driver, but in Mapogu and Seoul, it's not too bad. And the next question is how to find bike shops in Korea. There will be times on your journey that you might need to visit one. And in Korea, there are bike shops in most small to medium-sized cities, and in all of the bigger cities. And in order to find them, you need to use the app Naver Maps and search for 자전거, which means bike in Korean, as sometimes they don't pop up when you search in English. Also, most bike shops here will oil your chain for free, but we always offer to pay just as a courtesy. 감사합니다. Okay, now let's talk about how to do your laundry while you're cycling here in Korea. There are laundromats all over the country, and they can be found by typing in the words balebang into Naver Maps. And most of them cost about 3,000 to 5,000 won to wash, and then another 4,000 won or so to dry. But this can change a lot. When we cycled around Korea, we carried one of those Sea to Summit sinks and did our laundry in there. And also carried around a laundry soap bar which we found at Daiso here for about 1,000 to 2,000 won. And we also use this same method inside of hotels. I recommend buying one of these camping laundry lines too to hang up your clothes when you're done. They're extremely small and really easy to carry. And the last question is how to ride transportation with your bike in Korea. To get to the bike paths, we included specific directions in parts 1 to 4 of this series for each bike path. But to summarize, the inner city or express buses in Korea are the best way to get around the country with a bike. which you can reserve on the T-Money reservation website in English with a foreign credit card, or buy your ticket right at the terminal. And just put your bike in the luggage compartment below on the bus when you ride it. You can easily find out which buses go where by using Naver Maps directions too. If you plan on riding the subway with your bike, most cities only allow it on weekends and holidays, and you have to load your bike on either the first or last car when you ride it, unless you have a folding bike. Then you can ride on weekdays too. Alright, and that'll do it for the frequently asked questions. Of course, if you have any other questions, feel free to ask in the comments and we'll answer them to the best of our ability. Yeah, I just wanted to say thanks for watching this Bike Pass series. It's been a big month kind of sitting at the computer all day, doing a lot of editing. My arm is starting to hurt, so probably not going to do one of these informational videos for a while, but definitely happy to share the information and hope that a lot of people can come here and enjoy the Bike Pass, because it's really awesome cycling here in Korea. The infrastructure is great, and really want to spread the word to get a lot of people coming here and enjoying it, because it's a lot of fun. Yeah, thanks so much everyone. Thank you for the people who donated the super thanks or Patreon, PayPal, that as well. That helps us out a ton actually. But happy cycling everyone, and we'll see you soon with another video.